And now to the million-dollar question. What happens next? Well, a lot depends on one man, Russian President Vladimir Putin. So far, the war has not panned out the way he wanted. But the failures on the battlefield have not really impacted his grip on power. There is no threat to his position at home. There is no challenger in sight in Moscow. So Putin is still in the driver's seat, and he has already made his position clear. The Russian president says he will keep on fighting.
Step by step, we will carefully and systematically solve the problems before us.
That was Putin's message a few days ago. He's a man on a mission. For him, the battle for Ukraine is a personal one. Ukraine was a part of the erstwhile Soviet Union. It split in August 1991. A few months later, in December the same year, the Soviet Union fell apart. Putin termed its collapse as the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. In the years that followed, as NATO expanded its wings in the region and Ukraine got closer to the West, Putin's urge for revenge grew stronger. For the Russian president, any attempt to integrate Ukraine into the West is a red line, one that shouldn't be crossed. It is also a personal loss for him, because as president, Putin has made efforts to keep Ukraine within Russia's fold. Let me show you some pictures, in fact. They're from 2004. And that is Putin in central Kiev attending a parade as a special guest. It was a special occasion, the anniversary of the liberation of Ukraine from Nazi Germany. On display was Soviet-style pomp and politics. Putin was visiting Kiev just before a presidential election. Alongside him was Viktor Yanukovych. He was then a presidential candidate, seeking Putin's endorsement perhaps. Yanukovych went on to win this election. Amid allegations of vote rigging, he eventually went on to serve as the fourth president of Ukraine. You see, Putin's influence ran deep in Kiev. But that's not the case anymore. With this war, perhaps he wants to regain the influence. But why did he make such a risky gamble for it? You could say that's Putin's style. He takes risks, sometimes to the point of brinkmanship. In his early days, it is said that he was combative in school. He did not hesitate in picking a fight. At the age of 16, he apparently approached the KGB himself. KGB was the intelligence agency of the Soviet Union. Putin went to the headquarters in Leningrad himself, and he wanted to meet an officer to ask what he had to do to become a spy. From his KGB days to the presidency, Putin continued to rely on his risk-taking abilities. He went to war in Georgia. He sent troops to support the Assad regime in Syria. He also annexed Crimea, an operation that perhaps laid the groundwork for the current invasion of Ukraine. And interestingly, Putin has never lost a war. He has no intention of losing in Ukraine either. But how does he plan to reverse his fortunes? How will he win in Ukraine? With more troops, weapons, and firepower. That's what he's betting on. Moscow has already mobilized 500,000 new conscripts. In the long term, he wants to expand military ranks. Putin has already approved the plans. The size of the military will go up by 50%. So the Russian president is preparing for the long haul. And it may not end with Ukraine. Reports say Russia could deploy new forces near Finland. Reports say this, a country that's seeking NATO's protection, that's Finland. Finland has applied to become a member of the NATO. So is Putin preparing for a wider conflict? No signs of that yet, but more significantly, no signs of scaling down either.